video is all about dividing elephant ears or Bergenia, a video that's been requested of me several times. Now, Bergenia is a fantastic little plant, long treasured as being useful in those very difficult areas, dead space, let's just say, because it's a plant that tolerates either sun or shade, just so long as it has well-drained soil. But it's a handsome plant too, and can make a gorgeous edging along the side of a path, which is what I have it doing in my garden here. And the good news is that it's a plant that spreads easily and is divided easily. But you may find that it's a little bit puzzling, because sometimes when you dig up a piece of Bergenia, you're presented with something like this, a tuber, no roots and leaves. And people want to know what to do. Well, if that's your question, then stay tuned. Hello, I'm Rachel from Douentza Garden in Ireland, and you are very welcome to this video all about propagating or dividing Bergenia, which is a personal favourite of mine. Now, I just love this plant for its architectural glossy leaves that look good nearly all of the time, because this is an evergreen plant in my climate. It's also a reliable flowerer, and when it flowers in early summer, it is just awash with pollinating insects, which is also absolutely fabulous. Now, if you're new to the channel, I garden in what roughly equates to as hardiness zone 9. And we don't use that system here in Ireland, but just take that as a guide in terms of what I might be able to get through the winter or not. Now, Bergenia, it can be divided, or it's divided best in either spring or autumn. And we'll come back to that because you might get away with it at other times as well. And just remember that if you do divide it in spring, that you need to then remove any flower spikes, because you want to give the plant a chance to produce roots rather than flowers. So let's go see my patch of Bergenia, the one that I'm busy digging up and dividing now. Over here in the west side of my garden is where my Bergenia was originally planted to line the side of this path. And as you can see, I've been the victim of my own success here, or let me just say of the Bergenia's success, because this thing has spread over time, over the years. And so if I look at it now, and if I'm honest with myself, I must say that it's gone a little bit too far, and it's time to thin it out and move it to somewhere else where it can be put to better use. This border here is due a revamp anyway. I think I am going to leave an edge of Bergenia just here along the side of the path, but the rest is going to be replanted. So where am I putting this Bergenia? And the answer is I do have a dead area over here behind the rhododendron. And this is an area where the soil is quite dry and where it gets not so much sun. So it's very difficult for me to populate it with anything. And we all know that if you don't plant something in an area, well, it just attracts weeds and then you have work on your hands. So I decided I'm going to plant my spare Bergenia in here. Now, as you can already see, I've already started, and in the last few days I've dug up some of the Bergenia that we saw out front and placed it here. I'm also doing this job in August, in a dull August, which I can get away with in my climate. So the first thing we need to do is to dig up a clump of Bergenia. Now, Bergenia doesn't root deeply like most perennials, so it's not hard to lift, but you might feel a bit nervous as you do so, because it's difficult to not break the rhizomes as they do spread everywhere. Bergenia is a plant that spreads by its overground rhizomes, and these don't have roots at first, but they do have little eyes, and very soon they will send down roots to attach themselves into the soil and just get going again with a new plant. We now examine this clump, and for every division what we want is a growth point, which has healthy leaves coming out of it, or the start of healthy leaves coming out of it, and a bit of rhizome. Now it's bonus if the rhizome already has established roots. And if the rhizome already has established roots, then really you don't need me to tell you what to do. You can just replant that plant straight away. You can divide your Bergenia by cutting through rhizomes. However, what sometimes happens is that you have a lot of rhizomes leading off the main plant and they haven't yet established roots. Now, when these come in contact with the soil, they will produce roots over time, but they're not there yet. And it's always a debate as to whether you can replant these now straight away. I can tell you that the safest way to propagate your Bergenia and have lots and lots of plants is to do it by putting pieces of rhizome into pots. And we'll go over that in a few minutes. However, a less sure method, but one that really very often works, is to just replant that segment of rhizome directly in the ground. And this is what I've done in the section that I showed you earlier. All of those pieces of Bergenia that had been planted in the ground, well, they had no roots. I do like to remove a few of the leaves when I do this, whether I'm replanting a piece with roots or whether I'm replanting a piece without roots, because the plant needs to put energy into maintaining those leaves on top. So the fewer it has to maintain, the more energy it has to funnel into making roots, and that's what we all want. So take off a few of the leaves. Now, if you have dense clay, it may be an idea to add a bed of grit to the bottom of your Bergenia hole. And of course, give your newly planted Bergenia a really good watering. Now, you're going to need to keep an eye on these, especially the ones that have no roots, and make sure that, well, just check them every day and make sure that they're not drooping too much, and give them plenty of water. Okay, so this Bergenia has no roots, and just to be on the safe side and to show you what to do with it, I'm going to take it into the greenhouse and pot it up. Now, if you pot up in autumn, your pot will be full of roots in the spring. Okay, so this is the plant we picked up, and as you can see, it's quite an unwieldy looking thing. We have a little bit of tuber down here, but we have so much top growth. And with something this size, the top growth is just going to put inordinate strain on the production of roots. So I am first off just going to cut off the biggest leaves here. So that one, and this is what I'm left with. I might tidy this up a bit further by just snipping off some of this dead growth. And we've got like skin here that I'm just going to snip off. Some people say that you should remove as much skin as possible because the skin might inhibit the growth of new roots. I'm not sure it's altogether necessary, but if you do take the skin off like I'm doing, what you should be careful of is not to damage any of the roots that are trying to emerge. And we can see here, there is something trying to come up just here. So now we're going to pot this up, and we have a pot here that's, I guess, the appropriate size. And we're just going to fill it up with some potting mix, some compost. Nothing too moisture retentive because this is a plant that likes things to be well drained, but we are going to bury this quite deeply down because we want to give it some stability, and then just backfill a bit like that. to make sure that it is steady in its pot. Now what I will actually do with this very big leaf here, do you see this one here? I'm just going to cut this leaf in half. The plant will regenerate new leaves fairly quickly, and that's just going to reduce the amount of work that this plant does until it gets established. Okay, so I'm going to keep this well watered. I can keep it outdoors, but I will need to move it in if we have a very heavy frost or a very heavy snow. And there we go. We have 2 potted up safety Bergenias, backup Bergenias, just in cases. And you know, if all of the ones out in the garden do well, then I can always offer these to friends. They're always ready to have a few extra spare plants. Well, we all want to swap and have different things in our gardens, don't we? Okay, so that's it. That's how to divide Bergenia. It's not hard, and I hope you feel confident to do it. As I said, I do this at various times of year here in Ireland, and it works out fine. It's a very easy plant, and yeah, no excuse for not having lots in the garden. I will at this stage mention to you that I made a video a while ago about how to grow Bergenia, and I will link to that here at the very end so you can check it out. And that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!